guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel and welcome to today's video. I hope you're doing really well. I'm really excited for today's video because I'm talking about something that I'm really passionate about, which is saving for my kids' future. I've got one of them right here. We're just having a bit of tummy time on the kitchen floor, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna video this because it's a rainy day, we can't go out today, and I thought I just want to talk about investing and saving and everything that I'm doing for the kids for their futures. And it was a video that was actually highly requested when I spoke about it in my last budgeting video. I love this topic, guys. I love talking about saving. I love talking about investing. I do genuinely believe that anyone can start today, whether that's investing £1 or £10 or £50 or £100. Anyone can do it, and that's the beauty of the age that we live in. People like me and you can just invest. You can do it from your phone. You can open a free account on loads of different places, and you can start investing for your kids as well, which to me is the best gift that I could possibly ever give them. So I just wanted to start by talking a little bit about what we do. I'm not saying by any means this is the right thing to do, but it's just what we decided to do when we had our first baby in 2020, and we've decided to carry on doing that for our second, and we probably will just carry on doing this throughout their childhoods, and it is to invest their child benefit money that we get from the government into a stocks and shares junior ISA. And so there are lots of different ways that you can save or invest for your kids, and lots of different amounts. You can invest £10, you can invest £50, but we decided to start by investing the child benefit money that we received like literally when my first was born in 2020. So that was £84 back then. It increased slightly, but now because we have two kids, it's actually £80 each is what we invest into their individual stocks and shares ISAs. Now there are obviously loads of different ways of saving money for your kids' futures, and if you want really good advice on like money saving things, then Money Saving Expert is a really great place to go. It's honestly, I go there all the time. They don't talk about investments on there. They're strictly about saving money and getting the best rates, but it's really good if you're not looking at investing for your kids but you really want to save money in the best way you can. They've got great articles on there, and they do specifically talk about cash ISAs, which are different to stocks and shares ISAs. So junior cash ISAs are a really great way of saving money for your kids' futures if you don't want to invest in the stock market. So essentially the difference between a junior stocks and shares ISA and a junior cash ISA is that a cash ISA is protected. Any money you put in, you're going to get that money back out. You are specified a set amount of interest that you're going to see a return on. Every year that could change, but you know that what you're going to get is there set on the tin. There's no risk with it. The only risk with it is that your money might not keep up with inflation, and therefore your money might be sat there and depreciating in value in theory, because if inflation goes up by 7% and you see a return of 5%, then your money hasn't kept up to date with inflation. However, with a junior stocks and shares ISA, you're investing that money in the stock market. So whatever the stock market does, that's what your money does. And so for us, we kind of decided that the potential risk is worth the potential reward. And I know that's not for everyone, but what history has shown us is the longer you can leave your money in the stock market, the more chance you have of it growing and growing and growing. And something that I really want to talk to you guys about is the concept of compound interest. So compound interest might sound like a bit of a scary topic, it might sound like a bit of jargon to most people, but honestly, when I understood the theory of compound interest, it really changed my perspective on a lot. And the biggest factor in this is time, and the biggest thing that our kids have is time. So my 3-year-old, who currently has over £3,000 in their stocks and shares ISA, which is just mad based on the fact that I've invested his child benefit for the last 3 years, that £3,000 is gonna grow and grow and grow, not just because of the amount of money that I put in from his child benefit, but it's also going to grow based on the interest that is occurred on that savings account, not least from the money that you put in, but you then get interest on top of the interest that you earned before, on top of the interest that you learned before. So after 18 years, That's going to be a good amount of money. Okay, so to illustrate this properly, I decided to get up the compound interest calculator from the website, the calculator site, which is something that I'll pop down below. And essentially what you can do is pop in how much you wanted to invest initially, whether that's 0, that's absolutely fine. I'm going to put an interest rate of return of 7% because historically, based on, you know, last 100 years of the stock market, that's how much generally we've seen as a general annual increase. Sometimes it's less, but sometimes it's a lot more. So I'm going to put 7% as an average, which is obviously a lot better than any savings account that you could possibly find. I'm going to put 30 years because I'm going to show you the absolute power of compound interest here. And then I'm going to put, you can put any amount in every single month. You know, you can have £50, but I'm going to put £80 because that's how much, obviously, I've been investing for the kids since they were born. And I'm just going to calculate it and show you what the beauty of compound interest actually is. So you can see at the top here that my actual amount that I've contributed in 30 years, say I'm obviously not going to be investing for the kids for 30 years, but I'm going to do it until they're 18, and then I'd highly encourage them to carry on doing it, you know, past the point of 18, or, you know, when they get their first job or whatever. Even £100, obviously even more if they get a good job, who knows, but if they could continue investing that £80 every single month, 30 years, the deposits that we would have put in would be £28,800, which is obviously a whopping amount of money. That's loads of money, and that alone, if we'd just put that into a savings account, would be great, and a really great, you know, deposit. Hopefully, I don't know whether that would be the case in 30 years, but right now that'd be a, you know, an all right deposit on a house, and, you know, you could get going with that. However, as you can see here, the future investment value goes from 28,800, which you've invested, to the total amount of £97,597. The reason being that you've earned a whopping £68,797 in interest alone. So that is what compound interest does. So I'm going to show you here, year 0, nothing, and then you carry on going down. Say we took out all the money at 18 years, so when my son George hits 18, or when Hallie hits 18, based on the assumptions that I've done, that would be £34,457, which again, hefty deposit on a house, right? Very hefty deposit. And that's actually only having put in £17,280, £80 a month, every single month for 18 years. And then we would essentially have doubled our money based on the fact that the interest accrued is also £17,177, totaling almost £35,000. So realistically for me, I couldn't say no to the prospect that this could potentially happen for the kids. Obviously, like I say, not guaranteed. It's based on assumptions, but assumptions that are very, you know, well rehearsed. In theory, likely. That's what I'm banking on anyway. Say, for example, the kids didn't take that money out at 18 and they decided to hold on to the money until they were 25 and carried on investing £80 a month themselves or through me, however that would work in the future, who knows. So every single year they would be putting in £960, and then over time, that almost £35,000 would be almost £65,000 just by waiting until they're 25. Let me tell you, I'm 25 right now as I'm filming this. I'm 26 this year. If someone turned around to me and said, oh, by the way, I opened a stocks and shares ISA for you 25 years ago, and I've been putting in 80 quid every month for the last 25 years, and now you've got £65,000 tax-free, and they just told me that today, my life would be like so incredibly different. So I really, like, I see this and I can't unsee it. Like I can't even begin to imagine like how much easier their life would be, just like as a starting point. Let's look for another 5 years and say they held on to it until they were 30. It wouldn't just increase a little bit, it actually increases to almost £100,000. Most of the people that watch my channel are in the age bracket of like 25 to 35, so I know that this will resonate with you, that again, if you were 30 years old, that if someone turned around to you and said, £97,500, here you go. Or even when you were 25, if you carry on putting £80 a month into this account that I started for you for 5 years, you'll then have almost £100,000 when you're 30. Like I just couldn't even imagine it. Tax-free as well. So obviously, like I say, none of that is guaranteed, and that is based on an assumption of 7% interest every single year. Now that doesn't always happen. The stock market is the stock market, and sometimes it's up, sometimes it's down. Nothing matters. The stock market, what is happening in the stock market doesn't matter until the day you take out your money. Nothing matters. So say again, like I have a stocks and shares ISA for both the kids. They take it out at 18. Nothing else matters other than the day that they withdraw the money, because that's how much they're selling their shares for, and that's when they get the money that it's worth. So if they had ended up, say for example, selling all of their shares and withdrawing all of their money in, you know, March 2020, when everything went like that, they would not have made a lot of money, it's fair to say. However, if they'd have waited until 2023, they probably would have made a lot of money. And the thing is, you can always be full of what ifs and I wish I'd done this and I wish I'd done that. And the only thing that our kids have got in absolute bucket loads is time. And I'm certainly not saying that, you know, we should just help our kids and then they don't ever have to work and they, you know, don't even have to worry about anything, and they know that this is coming, so they shouldn't bother. That's just not the case at all. You could even go further with this and show your kids this kind of a graph, and for example, change it to not 30, but say until they were 50. Like, you know, that's not, I mean, that's not old, do you know what I mean? If they could live a life, they could go and do stuff, they could work, they could buy a house, have their own kids, and they get to 50, and then this is what they'd have to fall back on, in theory. So again, if we say at 30, we'd have almost £100,000, you can see year on year how much that increases, because the more money you have in that account, the more interest you earn, and then it keeps going, it grows. It's this massive snowball effect. So for example, we went to 35, £144,000. We go to 40, £209,000. We get to 45, £303,000. Every 5 years, it seems to me that you're getting almost £100,000 more. And then you get to 50, £435,000. I'm pretty sure that would pay off most mortgages, pay for a fair few holidays, and you could sit quite comfortably on it, on top of your state pension or whatever. I just think there's so much potential in this, and it obviously requires a lot of, you know, self-restraint and not taking money out. And obviously, if you're not in a financial position to put all of this money away and you need it to survive, then that's different. But if you have £80 a month every single month to invest, and then you can teach your kids these principles, we really have the potential here to set our kids up for life, like actual life. You know, there's an argument as to whether you want to wait until you're 50 to have this sort of money, or you want to live your life when you're younger and go travelling and use the money to, you know, set up a house, and when you have a family, when you really need the money. But equally, almost £500,000, like, I wouldn't say no. I think I would, if someone told me that I could do that by the time I'm 50. I don't have the 18 years worth of investing behind me already, like my kids are going to have. But, you know, if someone told me that by the time I'm 50 I could have almost £500,000, I think I'd probably put the work in. So yeah, it's really interesting, and that kind of graph, seeing that, really put it all into perspective for me. What I'm going to do is link that calculator site down below, and you can have a little play with the numbers and say that you wanted to only invest, you know, £50 a month or £20 a month, whatever you could do, or maybe not do it every month and put in a little bit of money at birthdays and Christmas and that kind of thing, when they get a bit of money in the card from Nan. Maybe you could put that money into investments. Anything will help. The same sort of principles apply to adult ISAs and stuff like that as well, but obviously for kids, like I say, the best thing that they've got on their hands is time. They've got loads of time. So, I mean, the best thing that we can do is start them on the right path, you know, teach them the principles, and if they want to follow and potentially be in a position where they could have that amount of money when they're, you know, growing older, I feel like that's such a massive security blanket for them. The idea is, I guess, just hopefully that they're going to have a little bit of comfort in knowing that everything's going to be all right. They can take a risk, they can make a few mistakes. That's what life's about. Hopefully they just won't fall on hard times, essentially. That's all I want for my kids. I don't want them to be millionaires. I definitely don't want them to be just like never trying and never doing anything because they just have like money in the bank. It's definitely not about that for us. But essentially all I want to do is make sure that they don't fall on hard times and know that they're always going to be all right. right? Whether that is waiting until they're 50 and not touching it until then, or whether that's getting it out when they're 30 and they've got a family of their own and they could really do with the cash because they want to make sure that their family's set up to have the best life that they can have while they're young. Like, it doesn't matter to me what happens, but it's just really interesting to see what the potential is. So like I say, my two kids, George and Hallie, have their stocks and shares ISAs respectively. George has got over £3.5 grand in his stocks and shares ISA already, and Hallie's almost got £650 in her stocks and shares ISA. So that is the £80 a month that we put into their account every single month, plus the interest that they've accrued on it so far. But like I say, every year that's just going to keep growing and growing and growing. So in terms of what we invest in for the kids, it's really, really simple. We just invest in index funds. And if you don't know what an index fund is, essentially it's loads of different companies put into a fund, and then you buy a tiny share of every single one of those companies in the fund. So essentially you've got a bit of a diversified portfolio. So if one of those companies goes bust or something bad happens, then the other companies within that portfolio are going to keep up your stock, hopefully. There are loads and loads and loads of different index funds that you could choose. Ones that you might have heard of before are the FTSE 100, which is the top 100 companies in the UK, or the S&P 500, which is the top 500 companies in the US. I used to invest in both of those for myself, just because there were markets that I was familiar with, and like I knew a lot of the companies in them. However, recently I've also started investing into global shares, just so that I've got even more diversity. I just wanted to diversify a little bit so that, yeah, I had a toe in every single market, not just those two. So essentially these are the top companies across the world. So you're tracking the global economy. So you're basically putting a bet on the world rather than just a country. So essentially you're tracking the global market and betting that that's going to be inflation, which it often does. There are loads of different accounts that you can use, and I would definitely recommend doing some sort of comparison, because the one that we have might not be the best one right now. There might be better ones out there. There are honestly so many different stocks and shares junior ISAs that you could open. There's so many different platforms now. There are some really good ones on apps that you can use, and then there are the more traditional ones like Vanguard and Hargreaves Lansdown. We have one of those ones. However, I have looked at the more, modern ones, I would say. They do have a fee associated with them, but they're really user-friendly. I quite like the look of the Wealthify app, for example. But yeah, it's totally up to you, and I think you should just do your research and your own comparisons. Let me know down in the comments if it's something that you'd be looking to do for your kids, or you already do, or if you've got any more tips and stuff for mums and dads, maybe watching this video about investing for the kids or saving for the kids, whichever you decide to do. Obviously, like I say, we've decided to invest in stocks and shares, but there's nothing wrong with saving into a cash ISA, either at the same time as doing that, so you've got a good guarantee. You can maybe put half of the amount into a stocks and shares ISA and half the amount in a cash ISA. You can have both. You can't go over the £9,000 threshold of those two combined, but chances are we're not going to go over that threshold, let's be honest. So yeah, you have lots of different options, and obviously just choose the one that's best for you. And look, if you're not in a position to be saving for your kids right now, and there's that whole thing of put on your own oxygen mask first, look after yourself first, look after your kids now rather than in the future. If that's the place that you're in, that's totally fine as well. Obviously, every circumstance is individual, everyone's position is different. I'm obviously just sharing exactly what we've done and why we came to the conclusions that we came to. And if anyone is in a similar position to me and wanted to do something like that, then yeah, I thought I would share it. But anyway, I really do hope this has been interesting, guys. Give it a like if you like this kind of content, and I might be able to do a little bit more in the future. But for now, we are going to love you and leave you, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
All the pieces back together. Yeah, you take all my wrongs and make them better. Yeah, you're making me wanna try forever. And I feel so free, oh my sweet baby.